Well, I think they've changed dramatically. Historically, President Putin has been able to be very popular because of high economic growth. The Russian economy doubled between 1998 and 2008, and it continued to grow right up until around 2011 when the protests broke out. Economic growth has slowed since then, and Putin's popularity began to trickle down until the events in Ukraine. With the annexation of Crimea, President Putin's popularity rose dramatically, and in a typical rally around the flag effect that we see in a lot of countries. That has started to wane, and I think the big problem facing the Kremlin right now is how can it come up with a convincing narrative and legitimation strategy that will allow it to face the deep problems that it has in the economy, in demography, in governance, that is not just an appeal to nationalism, which allows them to cover up a lot of those problems. I think it's important to recognize that domestic politics in both countries allow politicians to bear a very low cost for these bad relations. If you think about U.S. relations with China, where some of these same rivalry issues come into play, the economic stakes are so high that reason prevails in the end. With Russia, the economic stakes are actually very low, and politicians can rattle sabers on both sides at very little cost internationally, and it can be very good for them at home. I think this has been particularly true in Russia over the last 4 to 5 years, that we've seen this great nationalist and inward turn in Russian politics. If you think of Russia, it's too rich, it's too well educated, and it's too urban to be as corrupt and non-democratic as it is. So going forward, one might conjecture that the paths to a more European, a more open Russia are not closed off. The odds are against it, certainly given the concentration of power in the Kremlin, the structure of the economy, and the anti-West narrative. You can't deny that. But I think it's also wrong to completely write off these prospects, given these other structural factors that would lead us to expect a more optimistic future for Russia.